Start our roundup then in the Premier League. Match day number 34 it was, and it is a pretty decent time now for the teams at the lower ends of the league to start getting some points, because it's so crucial, especially for survival, if they want to survive in this league. And we're going to talk about one of the teams that do want to survive in this league, and that is Aston Villa. And Villa, well, they lost 3-0 to Manchester United at home last night. It was a pretty uneventful game for the most part of it. Obviously, Manchester United scored 3 goals that were of pure quality. A Mason Greenwood drive into the bottom corner, Paul Pogba's neat finish, and a penalty that was given for a Ezri Konsa's challenge on Bruno Fernandes that was on the edge of the penalty area. And watching it back, I do see why he's given a penalty, but it is a little bit soft because Fernandes has his back to goal. Konsa's, well, I was going to say swung a foot. He didn't swing a foot at it, but he had a nibble, didn't work out, and Fernandes, fell over as a result. So that's how the penalty was given. He obviously converted. Very good at the spot since lockdown, of course. He scored a couple of penalties. I remember one against Spurs as one that he has scored. But yeah, Bruno Fernandes, one of the reasons why Manchester United have transformed into a side that could very well be, a race for top 4. And this was a big win for United, considering their away form. They haven't got as many points away as they have at home. They've got a good home record, United, but away from home against a relegation rival was a real chance to see if they can close the gap to the likes of Chelsea and Leicester, who we're going to talk about. But for Aston Villa, their home form is better than their away form. They've only got 9 points away from home, so this was a chance really for Aston Villa to try and maybe get a point or maybe even a victory and push themselves up out of danger. But no, it's 30 goals now that they've conceded at home, which is the third worst defence in the league at home, and Aston Villa have the worst defence away from home as well. So that's their problem, Aston Villa, is just defenders. I think that, yes, Tyrone Mings, they bought him for £27 million. He's been an okay signing, but you have to say that the likes of Konsa and Courtney Howes haven't really been that key players that Aston Villa need to stay in this league. And it's always been the defence that's let Villa down in the past, and they really need a reliable, experienced centre-back partnership. With Mings, he's got the youth, he's got a little bit of experience as well, but with Konsa and with Courtney Howes, you just don't have that experience in the Premier League. Of course, they bought Konsa from Brentford, and Courtney Howes has been at Aston Villa for quite a while. So yeah, defence was what lacked this season for Villa, because I think they're going to go down. They've only got 27 points, which, as you look at the table, only 4 points behind Watford. And yeah, 3 defeats in a row. It can't get any worse for Aston Villa, to be fair. But for Manchester United, that's their 4th win on the bounce after their draw against Spurs. They've gone on a massive 12 points out of 12. Big win. And it is incredible because they're now only 1 point behind Leicester in 4th place. Yes, Leicester dropped down to 4th place after to Arsenal. And, well, to be fair, at the Emirates Stadium at night in front of no fans, I think this is one of the games where Arsenal really did need fans, because that result against Leicester at home means that they're still way off a European place, 8 points behind Manchester United. Leicester, however, do drop down to 4th, as I said, because of the draw. It's only 1 win in their past 5 games, so post-lockdown has not been very nice for Leicester. And you consider their away form is better than United's, but still, I think that it's a credible point away from home. But the real talking points from that game were VAR and red cards, because there should have been maybe a red card for Leicester, where Jamie Vardy, I think, following in from a challenge, caught Mustafi in the head with his studs, and it was quite a serious challenge, and that could have been serious foul play. It could have been a red card for Jamie Vardy, and that really was not what Leicester needed. But Eddie Nketiah got a red card in the second half, 4 minutes after coming on for high boot, I believe. It was quite a late challenge. But yeah, I think it was a red card in my opinion, because he should not be doing that on football. High boots are very, very dangerous. Ansu Fati got sent off for a similar foul against Espanyol. We'll talk about that in a bit. But yeah, not a good chance for Nketiah, and he got sent off. And of course, Vardy continued his race for the golden boot after scoring late on. So a good point for Leicester, but for Arsenal, it means they're slap bang on 50 points. They still are unbeaten in their last 4. But for Leicester, it is an opportunity missed. They're now on the same defeats as Sheffield United and Manchester City. But they are now finding their top 4 position and Champions League under threat for Manchester United, who are really starting to come into the form. Remember, United are only now 1 victory behind matching Leicester's win tally for the entire season so far. But for Arsenal, we'll talk about them now. Arsenal, of course, still remain unbeaten in 4. Their home record has let them down a little bit. They've got the worst home record out of the big 6 clubs, of course. They've got a worse record than Leicester, their opponents, as well. And Arsenal have conceded quite a fair few goals at home, 21 goals. To put that into context, Brighton and Watford have conceded only 1 goal more at home than Arsenal. But yes, Arsenal have scored 31 goals at home, which is okay, pretty okay. But their defence, of course, we've talked about their defence many, many times, especially at home, is what's letting them down. Obviously, away from home, Arsenal have the same defensive record in terms of goals against, but at home, you really should not be conceding too many goals. You should be seeing games out. But yeah, for Arsenal, the fact that they signed David Luiz on an extra year is a little bit questionable. I talked about that a couple of episodes ago, but still, I think Arsenal's defence really does need shoring up. Is William Saliba, the youngster from Saint Etienne, the answer to their prayers? Who knows? Who knows? Obviously, Pablo Mari's had a few games. I mean, I don't really know what to make of him. He has a little bit of experience, but not in the Premier League. He's got experience in the Brazilian league. So, yeah, that's another questionable signing. But I think Arsenal will need to invest in their defence and up front next season. But it depends how much money they'll give the manager, because of course we haven't seen Arsenal given a lot of money over the past couple of years. I think 2014, when they signed Ozil, was when they had the most money to spend on transfers, but no, not now, as it seems, because they're not going to get Europe. But for Leicester, obviously their away record is better than Arsenal's, which is good. They've conceded only 17 goals, and that's pretty good as well, because Liverpool have conceded only 3 goals less. So I think for Leicester to come out with a 1-1 draw is pretty credible in terms of their race for top 4. Yes, Manchester United did win, but of course Leicester still do have a chance. They've got the top scorer in the Premier League with Jamie Vardy. Their defence has been on point. They've got a better defence than Manchester United. So yeah, maybe the Red Devils against the Foxes could be one to watch for the Champions League spots later on this season. But for Arsenal, they are now, what is it now? They're still 1 point behind Sheffield United in 7th, and that does, I think, guarantee a Europa League qualification spot, but not for the group stage. So they're going to have to go through, I think, the playoffs of that competition. I'm not really too sure about that, but for Arsenal, times aren't pretty squeaky bum time now for the Gunners. They need to start getting results. Yes, they're obviously 4 unbeaten, but I really want them to see the Europa League, because I think a season without Europe is definitely a failure for Mikel Arteta. About the Europa League draw, of course, we were talking about Manchester United just now, and Manchester United now, of course, could face Istanbul Başakşehir or the Danish side Copenhagen if they get past in the last 8 of the Europa League. Of course, they're 5-0 up against the Austrian side Lask, and well, yeah, is that a good draw for United? I mean, Istanbul Başakşehir, I believe, are the champions of Turkey, and Copenhagen, I believe, are the champions of Denmark. So it could be a tough draw. But the last time Manchester United faced a Danish side in the Europa League was the day Marcus Rashford made his professional debut for United. So, well, it's a good omen for Rashford. Hopefully he can score if they do get Copenhagen. Of course, Istanbul, I think, might be a bit of a tougher draw than Copenhagen. There, obviously, Istanbul are leading from their tie against Copenhagen, of course. But yeah, we're also going to keep on talking about the Europa League, because another side who are chasing the top four are Wolves. Now, Wolves, after 3 wins in a row, have now slumped to 2 defeats in a row. They lost in the last minute to Sheffield United. A John Egan header from a corner means that they might lose out on Champions League football. And it's, again, continuing this great run that Sheffield United have on home. They've conceded only 14 goals, which is the same as Manchester United have conceded at home. Of course, they haven't scored any, which is probably their problem, which is why they're not really up there for Champions League, but might be in for Europa League. But Sheffield United still have the same amount of wins at home as Chelsea, and it was a great header from John Egan, to be fair. And their defence is part of the reason why they're there, but Wolves is away form once again. Yes, they're fourth, but again, it's goals, and 18 goals conceded is something to ponder about a little bit. They've conceded more goals away from home than Leicester, and Leicester are 2 places below them in the away table, so that is a little bit of cause for concern. But I think Wolves' defence over the whole year has been solid. Ruben Neves had an opportunity from a free kick that hit the crossbar, but Sheffield United had the chance as well with Ollie McBurney when he headed straight to the keeper's arms early on in the game. But for Wolves, of course, they are in a pretty healthy situation right now in terms of the Europa League. Of course, Wolves are drawing. They drew away from home against Olympiacos, the Greek champions. And yeah, it will probably be a good opportunity for Olympiacos to see if they can, take it to Wolves at home. But their draw is a little bit tougher because they have Sevilla or Roma. Now, Sevilla and Roma's first leg was, of course, abandoned due to the coronavirus pandemic. So that tie has yet to even kick off. So who knows? But I think Wolves have definitely got a tougher draw than Manchester United. Roma, of course, have done okay this season. They're in and around the top 6 in Serie A, and of course Sevilla have had a pretty decent season in La Liga as well. So I think Wolves may struggle against Sevilla and Roma. I think it's going to be a pretty tough game, but Wolves, I did say, would struggle in their group, and they didn't. They had a pretty tough group, and they got past that. I think Wolves can go far in the Europa League, though, and I think Wolves, their defence, obviously what I said at away from home, did concede against Olympiacos, but I think against Sevilla or Roma, 2 brilliant attacks. Of course, Sevilla have the likes of Kevin Gamero, I think, Wissam Ben Yedder, not Wissam Ben Yedder, don't know what I'm talking about. Roma have a good attack, and I think Wolves, this defence away from home, will have to be sharp, as Roma couldn't score a couple of goals against Wolves. But yeah, it is what it is. I think Wolves can get far. I think if they beat Sevilla and Roma, they'll be real candidates to meet Manchester United in the final. So yeah, that is what it is. Just briefly, the other UK side in the Europa League draw currently, Rangers. Of course, they're 3-1 down to Bayer Leverkusen, who they lost at home to. They have either Inter Milan or Getafe. Again, Inter Milan against Getafe tie yet to be kicked off. So maybe Rangers can go to the San Siro and get a point out of Inter Milan. But yeah, it is what it is. But for Sheffield United, going back to their result, big win. They will fancy their chances now of trying to secure a Europa League place. 4 games to go. If they can win half and maybe draw the other 2, I think that'll do it. Especially when their other rivals are slipping. Yes, one of their rivals, Tottenham, slipped up against Bournemouth, who are really, really desperate for any sort of point or 3. VAR decision, again, controversial. Jose Mourinho, of course, had a controversial VAR decision go against him when they played Sheffield United. And, of course, Spurs had a goal disallowed. Well, Bournemouth, rather, had a goal disallowed, luckily, to Spurs. Callum Wilson had an overhead kick which struck Josh King on the arm, in the 90th minute, and that was disallowed. Also caused for a penalty. There was a corner taken in, and Harry Kane thought he was pushed by Josh King intentionally at the start of the game. But a point doesn't really do much for Bournemouth's survival bid. They're still 3 points behind West Ham, and really Bournemouth, to be fair, controlled the first half but didn't really control the second half. It's now they end their losing run, but still no wins in a long time. Only 3 wins in their past 23 matches, Bournemouth, and it's just not going to plan for Eddie Howe. Can he try and salvage something? Who knows? But for Spurs, their form is very inconsistent. Draw, win, loss, win, draw is their last 5 games. They need to start being a little bit consistent. They now drop to below their rivals Arsenal, who they'll face in the North London derby very soon. So yeah, 3 points behind Wolves. Luckily, of course, as I said, Wolves have slipped up twice. They lost 2 games. But again, for Spurs, the problem with Spurs is, yes, they're okay at home, but it's their away record is absolutely shocking. 3 wins away from home all season. 21 goals scored, not enough. 28 goals conceded. In essence, they've conceded the same amount of goals away from home as West Ham. That is not very good. And Spurs, even Crystal Palace and Burnley and Southampton have a better away record than them, and that is shocking. Spurs, of course, are behind to Leicester in the home table. They haven't got a better home record than Leicester, but it's not been very good for Spurs. It's not been very kind this season for Spurs. Of course, the start wasn't very good. Mourinho's come in. Will he spend money in the transfer window? Who knows? Maybe he'll look to bring in a striker or maybe a midfielder to replace the already outgone Eriksen. So who knows? But for Bournemouth, their home record is better than their away record. They have scored, though, the 3rd least amount of goals at home. So that Callum Wilson overhead kick, if that did not strike Josh King on the arm, it really would have benefited the Cherries, because it would have been 3 massive points towards their survival. And what rubs the salt in the wound a little bit more is that their rivals Watford won against relegation-threatened Norwich 2-1 at Vicarage Road. That means that they end their run of 3 consecutive defeats, and Watford now are 3 points ahead of Bournemouth in 18th place. That was a very good win for them. They're on the same amount of wins as Bournemouth, but Watford do have a slightly better goal difference than the Cherries, and the winner was an overhead kick from Danny Welbeck after Norwich went in front. It was a pretty solid game for Watford. They did create chances. Watford's home form is what really has to keep them up this season, because they have a better home form than Norwich, than Southampton, than Bournemouth, than West Ham. They have an identical home form to Brighton as well, so their home form is really what's going to have to keep them up this season. In terms of goals at home, they've scored the same amount of goals at home as Brighton. They've scored more than Newcastle, Crystal Palace as well, and they've only scored 1 goal fewer than Sheffield United. So mixed reviews about Watford's attack. Of course, Danny Welbeck finally broke his long duct and scored his first goal for the Hornets. And yeah, it's going to be a pretty tough running, but if Watford can win a couple of games, I think they'll stay up. I originally said that they'd stay up at the start of the season, but I think who's in the bottom 3 right now, I think, unfortunately, those are the bottom 3 going down. Norwich and Aston Villa were not a shock to me, because I thought they'd go down about on the opening day of the season. They did not have good attack and good defence. But Watford was a bit of a surprise, especially when you think of the players that do play for the Hornets. It's a good team that Watford have got, but for some reason it's just not worked out this season, and that's what it is. But for Norwich, now they have to win every single game now to stay up, because they're 10 points behind Watford and they have 4 games to go. In essence, if Norwich do not win their next game, or even if they draw their next game, they could be relegated. They could be the first team to get relegated in the entirety of the Football League legitimately and not due to points per game. So yeah, Norwich, I mean, it had it coming. I mean, second worst defence in the Premier League, 26 goals. They've got the worst attack in the Premier League, and yeah, when you figure those two out, it really hasn't been a good season for Norwich. Teemu Pukki has just not fired them enough goals to keep them up. Yes, they've had a good cup run, but that was ended by Manchester United. But for Watford, very good win for the Hornets, and they can start looking to a few wins that will solidify their status. Another team looking to solidify their status as a Premier League side, Brighton. But they do have their work cut out. Yes, they're 6 points in front, but Brighton did lose at home to Liverpool. Liverpool got back to winning ways, and it was a pretty decent game for Liverpool, of course. Jordan Henderson and Mo Salah getting a couple of goals. Leandro Trossard smashed in an absolute brilliant finish from the left-hand side, but still, it doesn't prevent them from staying 6 points in front of the relegation zone. Really, it's just one more win for Brighton now, and they'll stay up. I think that they will get it. Brighton's home form this season has been, of course, not too shabby. They're around Watford and Crystal Palace. They scored a couple of goals at home. They haven't conceded too many as well. Their away form, however, is almost as good as, because yes, they've only won 3 times away from home, but 25 goals conceded away from home. That's only one less rather than Burnley, and their away record is pretty good. So the signs are looking positive for Brighton. I originally thought they'd stayed up. I thought they'd finish, I believe, in 13th, 14th. But Trossard has probably got to be one of their players of the season, alongside Neil Maupay and Pascal Gross, 2 pretty good players. But for Liverpool, the real worry now for Liverpool is, will they reach 100 points? And the reason why I say it's a worry is because Jordan Henderson suffered an injury, and he's going to be out for the remainder of the season. So he's going to miss the 4 match days. And that is a bit of a blow, because obviously, yes, Liverpool's the champions, but they do have a little bit of a problem of scoring goals away from home. They've only scored 29, and compared to the teams around them, it's not the greatest. Chelsea have scored 36, City has scored 36, Leicester 31. So I think that will take out Liverpool a little bit. I think they'll be more vulnerable, especially when they haven't got a leader and a captain as menacing as Jordan Henderson is, rather. So yeah, it's going to be a blow for them, but of course they're champions, so I'm not really sure if they're going to be bothered by that at all. But as for Brighton, only one more victory and they will surely stay up. But now we're going to talk about Liverpool's draw. Well, Liverpool's opponents in the draw. Of course, they were knocked out by Atletico Madrid in the Champions League, and obviously their second place rivals, rather, Manchester City, were obviously drawn in the Champions League, and Manchester City will face either Lyon or Juventus. Now, of course, Juventus, I believe, have not played their game. Not too sure about that. I don't think they have. Obviously, City are leading 2-1 from their away game that they had at the Santiago Bernabeu. I do fancy City to actually go on and win at home to Real Madrid. So, yeah, they're going to be taking place, of course, next month. But Lyon against Juventus, pretty tasty tie. I think Juventus will win, but Man City against Juventus will be a big game. I think if they can navigate past Juventus, Man City will be favourites, especially when you look at the other three ties. Red Bull Leipzig against Atletico Madrid, of course. We'll have Atalanta against Paris Saint-Germain, and Napoli against Barcelona will face probably Bayern Munich, because I don't see Chelsea going to the Allianz and doing a lot there. So City will quietly fancy this if they can get past, of course, Real Madrid at home. So chance maybe to save this disappointing season, I have to say, especially when you consider their champions. Yes, Laporte's injury did hurt them, but I think that they really have had a chance to shine in the Champions League, and that's what they're doing. They are shining in the Champions League. They've been doing very well, of course, beating the likes of Schalke and Real Madrid away from home so far. But yeah, I do think that they will go far. Finalists? Maybe. I mean, you have to consider the fact that Barcelona, Bayern Munich and Paris Saint-Germain are all still in the running for the trophy. So, yeah, it is what it is. But Manchester City absolutely dispatching Newcastle by 5-0. Newcastle still need one more win to equal the tally set by Rafa Benitez last season. To be fair, they offered very, very little. David Silva with the pick of the bunch with a free kick. Sad to see him go. Obviously, he's been one of the Premier League's best midfielders of the last generation or so. And yeah, it will be very sad for City fans to see him leave. But, I mean, when you've got moments like that, you should cherish them, because, of course, you never know when you might do that again or if it's the last time you're going to do that. But, yeah, now we're going to talk about Chelsea. Not the result that they had, which was a 3-2 away win against Crystal Palace. The fact that one of their teenage talents, Billy Gilmour, has an injury which will keep him out for quite a considerable period of time, 3 or 4 months, and that's going to be a big blow, because Billy Gilmour has been very, very good so far this season. Ever since he's been introduced in the Cup, he's obviously been integrated into Lampard's league system, and he's been pretty good. And the fact that he's going to be out for 3 or 4 months in this congested fixture list is very, very concerning. Chelsea, however, on the other hand, beat Crystal Palace by 3-2. It was scary in the end, because Zaha did score an absolute perler to obviously make the scoreline a little bit more respectable in Palace's favour. But yeah, the real controversy was that they did not put the ball out of play in the first goal, which involved Palace defender Gary Cahill pulling up with a match-ending injury that obviously allowed Willian to charge into the box unimpeded and set up Olivier Giroud for the first goal. But it was a little bit controversial, the fact that they didn't put the ball out of play, but obviously Zaha made the game a little bit edgy, but Pulisic and Tammy Abraham then made it 3-1. And yeah, Chelsea marching on to probably a Champions League spot. Third place, I mean, Frank Lampard will take that to the moon and back. That's a great season. They've got pretty hard fixtures. They've got Sheffield United, Chelsea, Man United away from home, and of course Liverpool away from home to round off the season on the 22nd of July, which is not that far. So yeah, I mean, it's been a good season for Chelsea, but the fact that Gilmour is out will be a little bit bitter to take in, especially the fact that he's done so well for them. But for Crystal Palace, obviously they're survived. Top half probably won't happen. 7 points behind, 12 available. So I think Roy's, end of season flurry that he had that started off at Bournemouth, probably he's going to peter out and they're going to finish around about 14th or 13th. But still, it's a decent season for Crystal Palace, and they've done really well. Obviously, Zaha has been in the goals, but not as much as he has liked to be. But still, very good season for Wilfried Zaha. But also happening what also happened in the Premier League is, of course, West Ham United really needed a win, especially after that draw against Newcastle, to see if they can pull away from the relegation zone. And they lost to Burnley away from home. Burnley have a very good away record. 6 wins out of 17 away from home. 22 points. They've got only 5 points less away than they have at home. Brilliant stuff from the Clarets. Jay Rodriguez's intelligent header was the difference, although West Ham had a catalogue of chances that they could have equalised or maybe even gone 2 up, especially Sebastian Haller, who missed an absolute sitter, pretty much one-on-one after a couple of deflections here and there. And Nick Pope was the hero of the day for the Clarets, and he's been pretty good. And Nick Pope, of course, is probably the unsung hero. Will he get into England's squad next year for the Euros? Who knows? Maybe, if he can have a good season next year. Who knows? But for West Ham, still looking over their shoulder, 3 points. If Bournemouth win their next couple of games, West Ham could be in trouble. And I really don't want West Ham to be in trouble, because they have too good of a squad to go down, I think, West Ham. have too good of a squad. The money that they've spent as well. The next couple of fixtures are kind to them. They've got Norwich away from home, Watford at home, Manchester United away from home, and Aston Villa at home. So in the next 3 weeks or so, I think West Ham should get, theoretically, 3 wins. Norwich won't pose a threat. Aston Villa won't pose a threat. Watford's away form now could do some damage, but I think the fact that, yes, Watford's away form isn't the greatest. They've conceded 31 goals away from home, but they've only scored 3 less than West Ham away, so you never know. Maybe Watford can maybe grab a point or so, but for Aston Villa, who've got the second worst home record, it's not happening for them. Aston Villa, they're not getting any points against West Ham. Bournemouth, of course, still need a couple of wins to survive the drop, and they've got 4 tough fixtures. Leicester, of course, are fighting for Champions League. City, who aren't really fighting for anything but dispatched Newcastle like they were an unused condom. And Southampton, who of course beat City. And Everton, who are still in the hunt for a top half finish. So, yeah, tough fixtures for Bournemouth. Will I think they win? Probably. They won't win many, but they're going to have to take what comes. But speaking of Everton, they drew 1-1 against Southampton. Richarlison scoring either side of a missed penalty from James Ward-Prowse, and Danny Ings, his 19th goal of the season. He's done absolute bits for them. And that really is it for the Premier League roundup. So the table then for the Premier League is looking like this. Obviously, Liverpool still in front, 92 points, only 3 wins required, and they will reach 100 points. City in second, Chelsea third, Leicester fourth, United are in fifth, Wolves in sixth, Sheffield United in seventh, Arsenal eighth, Tottenham ninth, and Burnley rounds out the top half of the table. Everton in 11th, Southampton are in 12th, Newcastle United in 13th, Crystal Palace 14th, Brighton are 15th. Those are probably the teams that have survived pretty much this season. West Ham in 16th, Watford in 17th, AFC Bournemouth in 18th, Villa in 19th, Norwich plumb last are still the teams that are in a relegation scrap. Although, again, if Norwich do not win against their next opposition, that is it. They are down without a fuss. Time to turn over to the Championship now, and it's been a busy couple of days in the Championship. We've had promotion, we've had relegation stories, of course. Wigan obviously going into administration, 12 points will be deducted from them either at the end of the season or the start of next. And they had a massive win against QPR, 1-0, and it was a brilliant win for Wigan Athletic. They now have only 1 defeat in their past 5 games. Pretty good form for them, and they need every single point they can, because they're still, with the points, obviously the deduction yet to take place, 8 points in front. So they really needed that. Queen's Park Rangers now only have 1 win in their past 5 games. The other results, Leeds absolutely thrashing Stoke City to go top of the table. It's now 3 wins in their past 4 games for Leeds. Millwall lost to Middlesbrough, meaning Millwall's playoff chances are pretty much almost down the drain after their second defeat in their last 5 games. Middlesbrough still give themselves a chance of survival. Obviously, Neil Warnock's at the helm. He was confirmed as the new manager a couple of weeks ago. West Brom still keeping up the chase for automatic promotion with a 2-0 win against Derby, which sees Derby go out of the playoffs. They're now 3 points behind. Birmingham City lost to Swansea 3-1. Of course, I talked about Jude Bellingham maybe going to Borussia Dortmund. Birmingham City still need to survive as well. They're only 4 points off the drop in the Championship. Swansea 1 point off the playoffs. Bristol City beating Hull City by 2-1 in a week where Lee Johnson, shockingly, was sacked. Now, is this a surprise? Well, Bristol City in the last 3 seasons have been in the playoffs, but then faded away into obscurity at the end of the season. And this is the case of deja vu this season. 4-5 defeats in a row. Bristol City finally get a win. Hull are now in the bottom 3. I'd hate to see Hull relegated. I'd also hate to see Luton Town get relegated. They drew 1-1 with Barnsley. Is there light at the end of the tunnel for the Hatters and for Barnsley. Maybe 4 points and 5 points from safety. This relegation race is even more exciting than the Premier League because, yeah, it's just West Ham and Watford in the Premier League, but in the Championship, you got Birmingham City, Middlesbrough, Huddersfield, Charlton, Stoke, Hull, Barnsley and Luton. Any three of those teams can go down. Any three. Out of those three, though, I think Middlesbrough will go down. I think Barnsley will go down. And Stoke haven't had a good season. Maybe they will go down as well. Preston North End kept up their push for the playoffs by beating Sheffield Wednesday 3-1 away from home. Fulham are now closing the gap to Brentford. They're in 4th place with a 1-0 away win against Nottingham Forest. Brentford, of course, beat relegation-threatened Charlton by 2-1. And Blackburn Rovers beat Cardiff City by 3-2. So in the Championship table, Leeds, of course, are leading. West Brom is in 2nd. Brentford, Fulham, Nottingham Forest and Cardiff make up the playoffs, with Swansea, Preston, Derby and Blackburn still in with a shout of reaching the playoffs. In the relegation race, of course, I said the teams Hull City, Barnsley and Luton currently occupy the relegation spots. This weekend is also the playoff final for League One, Oxford United against Wycombe. Who do I think will win that match? Well, Oxford, to get into the Championship, would be mega. They've had a really decent season. I think they've obviously let one of their key players in Shandon Baptiste go to Brentford. Bit of a loss, but they've still got some pretty good players. Mousinho is one of them. But for Wycombe, I mean, brilliant. If they can beat Oxford and go into the Championship. I mean, I wasn't even born the last time Wycombe were in the Championship. So, yeah, if Wycombe can go into the Championship, brilliant stuff. And then they've got some pretty good players as well. The likes of Onyedinma, Dinma, obviously the Beast, Adi Akinfenwa. They've got some pretty decent players as well at Oxford. But I actually fancy Wycombe just. I think it'll be a close game, but I do fancy Wycombe. The League 2 playoff has already happened, and Northampton will be back in League 1 for the first time since 2017. They beat Exeter by 4-0. I'm not sure if I mentioned that anywhere. And remember at the start of the episode where obviously I talked about Ansu Fati's red card. That was in a 1-0 win against Espanyol. Barcelona beat Espanyol. They're still a couple of points behind Real Madrid, but that sees Espanyol, fellow Catalans, relegated to the Segunda Division for the first time in over 25 years. So commiserations to Espanyol. But that is going to be it then for the Chris Talks Football Podcast, episode number 32. Hopefully you guys did enjoy. If you did, leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We're starting to hopefully get that 70% who aren't subscribed down. And as always, I will see you next time. Stay healthy and stay safe, guys.